Welcome to episode 18 of the Academic Vertex. I'm your host, Steven. You can find me on Twitter at 6goal. Today with me, FPL Shark, FPL Tornado, better known as FPL Sharknado, as we look forward and backwards on the highlights from Game Week 10, look ahead to Game Week 11, talk some player news, transfers, captains, and some of the highlights, lowlights from Game Week 10. Let's say hello to Shark. Shark, how are you doing today?
Oh, very well. Good evening and welcome to all the millions of viewers out there. It's been so long since we podded. I generally forgot what app we're using. Literally like 5 minutes ago. It's a little bit embarrassing, but no, good to be back and good to review a decent game week for me, selfishly. So I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. FPL Tornado, Casey, how you doing this evening?
Pretty good. Good to be back. It's been quite a while, as Garf said. So I'm glad to be talking about FPL again for the first time in like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, and I'm glad to be back finally. As you guys said, it's been far too long. Lots of things going on in the FPL world, and it's always unfortunate when we can't get together for 60, 65 minutes and talk a little fantasy football. So let's get right into it. Let's look back on Game Week 10. First match, the one we saw today, City 1, Spurs 0, but that pitch was abysmal. I'm not going to say it led to the final score. There were a couple of bobbles, but if I were Spurs, I'd be very disappointed in the quality of that pitch today.
One thing for Spurs is better than the quality they pitch. They've got a White Hart Lane at the moment. It's it was a lesser of two evils. To be fair, they could have played at the new stadium and probably had a better field, but. Yeah, strange. Not strange. It's difficult when the FA is trying to pay Wembley off with the NFL. Yeah, it's a bit of a leveler. It's a leveler at our level when I play. If the pitch is crap, then we play crap. Yeah, it was hardly an advert for the FPL. The Premier League today. So yeah, disappointing. But what can you do?
Casey, impressed with anybody from Spurs or City today?
Well, certainly impressed with Raheem Sterling. I think he looks the best and brightest player on the pitch, and he has all season when he plays. It's kind of unfortunate that he gets so much flack from the England side. It blows me away because I think he's better than Harry Kane, and it has been for about 12 months now. And I think part of it's just Harry Kane's been so tired and just been overworked. But I think Sterling's the best England has to offer right now, and I don't think it's close. So I don't know. Garf probably has some thoughts on that, but from an outsider looking in, Sterling's just fantastic. He's bright.
Yeah, he plays that no fear, and he's not in a position where he has to prove himself anymore. He's been there a while. He just turns it on. Obviously game week 9, he didn't kick a ball because of his, he bashed up Spain. And Pep obviously had the arse about that. So, he didn't play then, he got dropped. And he comes back in and he's doing bits. And to be fair, I think, when you look at it from an FPL point of view, if you want a guy that's going to play more than Aguero in an attacking position for City, you probably start considering a Sterling Aguero swap. What do you reckon, Stephen?
That was actually going to be my next question. So would you play Sterling ahead of Aguero? And if you did, would you pile all that money into your midfield, or would you still look at owning a premium forward, maybe somebody a little bit lower like an Aubameyang or a Lacazette?
Yeah, I think having Aguero and currently having Salah and Hazard in my midfield, if I did swap out Aguero for Sterling, I'd only be able to afford sort of between the 7 and the 6 bracket across my forward line, and that would make me a little bit nervous. But there are other managers out there that have got the luxury of being able to. Perhaps you haven't got Salah, perhaps you've only got Hazard. You can move Sterling into that midfield and then come in for an Aubameyang or a Lacazette, and then just go with Arnie for the next foreseeable future, and just go with those two. That's probably what I'd do if my TV was better than 101 million.
Yeah, my TV is 102.4, and at one point I was considering Sterling, but it just scares me to run without Aguero. I mean, we know what he can do, and I mean, we always flash back to one game, that being the Newcastle game, scoring 5 goals in a short amount of time. We still live off that one memory, but we know he's dynamic. We know he can score. He is a huge price tag at 11.3, so you're saving 0.2 if you decide to go to Sterling. But I mean, that is one strategy that I've been looking at is moving Aguero if he continues to, maybe get 1 goal, which sort of takes us back to last year. And Lukaku, I mean, Lukaku had some fairly good success early on in the season, scoring 1 goal for, what was it, 8 or 9 weeks. And, people are all over him, flat track bully, 1 goal. But now Aguero is doing it. He hasn't really been all that impressive. He's getting into some good shooting positions. He does have KDB coming back, but KDB didn't look sharp today. That's just going to take time, for him to get back up to the game speed. But I do think it's viable moving Aguero for Sterling and maybe piling more money into the midfield, like you said, going Sterling, Hazard, and Salah, or Sterling, Hazard, and De Bruyne, and then looking whatever you have left, putting that into your forward line.
Yeah, Casey, what do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, I don't think I'd use any free. That's the thing. It's tough to use a free transfer or 2 free transfers to do kind of a sideways move of Aguero to Sterling. But if I was on a wild card, I'd probably pick Sterling over Aguero and set up my team around having Salah, Hazard, and Sterling in my midfield. And then probably a couple of premium defenders and then just some cheapy forwards. So maybe like Arnautovic plus a 5 million something forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was playing around with it today. Like I could, with a wild card, and I could fit. I think I could fit 2 premium defenders, Salah, Mane, Hazard, and Sterling in my midfield with 2 cheap forwards. So that was tempting. But the problem is that if a premium forward catches fire, it's going to be really hard to get them.
You never get them back in.
You won't have the flexibility with Aguero. You can move him sideways to somebody. If let's say that Aubameyang keeps this up and he's also starting every game all of a sudden, and it's an easy move to him. But if you do something like a all cheap forward line, then it's going to really cause you problems down the line if you need to get somebody in the premium bracket, or Kane for whatever reason. Maybe he gets rested a couple of weeks and all of a sudden he becomes an option again.
As you said, 51% owned, so it's going to be very, very tough if he hits and you don't have him, when you probably think just about everybody in the top 10,000 has him. And I would say a majority of people in the game. But enough on City, enough on Aguero. Let's move to the next game. We go from expensive to cheap. Wolves, 2 losses in a row now. Lost to Watford, lost to Brighton Hove Albion. Brighton Hove, 3 clean sheets. Ryan returns of 9, 11, and 10. Old man Murray went off last week with a concussion, came back this week, scores a goal. That's 6 goals on the season. How many assets do you think from Brighton are viable going ahead with a run of very very
One. I think Ryan's a good option, or Duffy, a defender, or Murray. The problem with Murray is he's so good at home and he doesn't start away. So what do you do?
What a finish, by the way!
Unbelievable.
It was ridiculous. If anyone else had done that, it would still be being played. The way he opened his foot up. Oh.
But as an FPL option, I don't know if I want to spend 6.5 million on someone that only plays the home games. I mean, he almost guaranteed to return in the home games, but then you bench 6.5 or get a 1 minute like a 1 point cameo from him in the away matches. It's just I think he's been benched the last 2 away matches. They're managing his minutes because he's 35 years old, and they know that they need to manage his minutes. So he's going to basically start and play as many minutes as possible at home, and then come in for 10 minutes if they need a goal in the away matches. Yeah. And that's so difficult to stomach at 6.5 million.
Yeah.
What's Brighton's rotation team? Do we know? Like if you had their rotation,
I guess they have such a good stretch. I don't know. I mean, as far as home away, I don't know. They probably.
Their next
have
next 4 games are away to Everton, away to Cardiff, home to Leicester, away to Huddersfield.
So got
So I mean,
out of 4
that's
away.
3 out of 4 away.
Murray might
There's no way he's not going to play 3 games, though, is there? They can't.
Maybe he might. Well, he might play 2. Maybe he starts one of the away matches. Maybe they have him set up so he misses this, or he makes sure he starts the home match. Well, there's an international break in there somewhere, so maybe he does play 3 out of 4 because he gets a rest over the international break. So
yeah, break is after Cardiff. Then they come back with Leicester at home, Huddersfield away, Palace at home.
Yeah.
So you're looking at.
Guess I would probably say Cardiff. He'd play Cardiff.
Yeah, 2 out of 3 out of the break, and probably Cardiff headed into the break.
I could maybe stomach that if he played like 3 out of the next 4. That could be, and he could easily return in each of those games, or at least 2 out of the 3, which would be good at his price point. But
all right, so let me ask you: you're running with your 3 big defenders, Alonso, Mendy, Robertson, or any combination of your 6 million defenders there, and you have a Wan-Bissaka and maybe a Wolves defender. What do you do with Duffy at 4.6? How do you fit him in? Who do you drop?
Yes, it's Duffy or Dunk, you know.
You don't want on goals, do you? They don't score this.
No, true. But so yeah, I've got one bis or one bonus, and or he's not much of a bonus anymore, but he's good from a bench at the moment. And then Bennett. So my move would be Bennett to Dunk or Duffy, but then I've got to find some more money. So
yeah,
I'm not really like. I'd love
$500,000. You got to find $500,000 to make that move.
Yeah, and I've only got an extra $1 million on what I started with at the start of the season, so I'm not going to go and spend it on a Brighton defender. I'd rather upgrade. I need to sort out Trent Alexander-Arnold before I do anything like that. So, but yeah, it's a tough one. It's doable though. I think if you went like Ryan's an option for me. I've got Edison at the moment, 6 clean sheets in a row. But I am considering that. I'm thinking, well, if I go Fabianski or Ryan, I can't really complain at $4.5 million because no, Fabianski's fixtures are lovely and Ryan's just on fire. He's more than capable as a goalkeeper to make those saves, and he's going to collect points for fun over the next foreseeable future. So I don't know. It's tough. Like I could get a little bit of money there, but yeah, it's tough when you've got crap TV, you know. I feel like I've got one of those old box TVs.
Yeah, I think Ryan looks the best option just because Brighton concedes so many shots that even if they concede a goal, he's probably going to pick up at least 1 or 2 save points. So he can his floor might be 3 or 4 points, which isn't bad.
Yeah, looking back to the last 4, 7, 6, 4, 6, and 5 last 5 games. So he's picked up save points in the last 5 games. So yeah, definitely.
I think Ryan's where you want to go for Brighton, just because even if they don't keep a clean sheet, he'll probably get you 3 points or something like that.
So Fulham, are they really that bad? And is it time to cut your losses on guys like Mitrovic and Schürrle?
Mitrovic has left, right, and center.
Yeah, Mitrovic has 1 assist in the last 4. I think they're terrible. Conceded 28. They have no defense. Time to cut your losses, huh?
I think so. If you carry you haven't got a problem. It's just one of those sideways moves. Like if you got Mitrovic, then who are you gonna? You can go Murray, or you can, if you haven't got an Arnautovic, you can go Arnautovic. Yeah,
Mitrovic or Arnautovic is an easy move at this point if you don't have both of them. I have both, so that's a problem. Yeah. I think you keep Mitro for this Huddersfield game. Tom Kearney is back. He played 20 minutes off the bench. He'll start, I'm sure, next week. I think they were just working him back to fitness, and he kind of makes that midfield tick. All of these last 4 or 5 games have been the games that Kearney's missed, and they were really good for the first 5 games before he got hurt. So he's the captain. He's the number 10. He's kind of their number 10. Him and Sari play well together, or they did for the first 5 matches. So I think you keep Mitro for 1 more game. Let him run against Huddersfield on Monday night. It's always nice to have someone in the Monday game. But yeah, it's last chance saloon for Mitro. I think 1 more week, see how they do with Kearney, but otherwise, if he blanks again, you have to move him out, either up or down for cash.
I was going to say you could. Yeah, it's tough because they got Huddersfield away in 11, and they have Liverpool ahead of the break. Out of the break, they have Southampton, who's right down there with them as being one of the poorer teams. So conceivably, you could see 3 games. Liverpool, you can see they're going to get shell-shocked, but, you may keep for Southampton. But I do agree. I would cut my losses into the break, and coming out of the break, move Mitra if you had him for. I mean, there's some good options. I mean, everybody's on Callum Wilson right now after hitting for a brace this week, and 6'4", not a bad option.
Yeah, I want to talk about Bournemouth. Actually, that's probably a good chance. What do you want to do? What do you
we're going to get there. Give me a minute. We're going to get there. That's on my notes. Slow down. Liverpool.
We're going away from we don't want to go away from the the outline, I guess.
We're rolling. Yes, Liverpool. They saved it late. Banged 3 goals in from the 66th minute on. Salah finally returns for those who captained him. 30 or 32 points, a goal,
30.
2 assists. Mane comes at 9-7. He hits for a brace after 5 scoreless weeks. Garf, seeing as you have both of them.
Oh no, not both. Just the one.
Oh, you just have. Are you going to keep? Oh, I thought you had Mane too. You said.
No.
Are you going to? Okay. Are you going to plan on keeping Salah then?
Yeah, I think so. He's okay. He's not
okay.
He's not a bad player.
No, he's pretty decent.
He's just playing well again.
He's just picking up momentum, He's just picking up momentum, and only 30% ownership. He's going to get another price rise back to 13 million. So I need that back because I lost 2 on him. So that'd be nice. But yeah, no, I'm quite happy. He seems to be a bit more influential during the games. His passing's a little bit sharper. I don't know. I think he's turned the corner from being average to being good, and he's still got all those points. So I'm not really. If it comes down to it, and I do need to rip up my team and start thinking about money.
It felt good to get 15 out of them though this week, didn't it?
It did feel very good. Yeah, I did. It's silly though. Like as a United fan, there's nothing more I hate more than Liverpool winning.
I understand.
It kind of softens a blow, like down to from being pissed off at the 100% down to like 99%. It's good to see a player like that playing with the confidence that he kind of had last year. He hasn't hit the heights of last year. He's not there. He's not there yet. He's probably punching about 75% at the moment. But when we have players like that in the league, it's just good to watch them. We lost Coutinho, all the way back to Ronaldo. When we lost Beckett, when you do have the privilege of watching these players play in as well as they can, it is good for the eye. So yeah, it's nice to pick up 15 though as a captain.
So Casey, what do you do with Mane? First return in 5 weeks, hits for 15 points. What do you do with him with the upcoming fixtures? Do you hold on to him?
Oh yeah, Salah playing better means Mane plays better. I think Salah's. I'm just trying to think back. I think Salah's assisted at least 4 of his 6 goals. So he's assisted both of them on Saturday. He assisted 1 or 2 of them earlier on in the year. He's got 6 goals. So he's got. I think he's just. Salah playing well means Mane gets more opportunities. So you hold them. You absolutely hold them. They play Arsenal next, which is probably going to be a goal fest. Although the way Liverpool are playing now, they're kind of a lot more disciplined. So maybe that's a little tighter of a match, but they're going to be able to counter on Arsenal. So yeah, you got to keep Mane. If you've held him this long, you need to keep him.
No, that's the same thing with Salah. If you held him this long, you keep him. Like you said, they are away to Arsenal, and then in 17 they have United. But between 11 and 19, those are the only top 6 teams they play. So definitely tripling up on Liverpool could be one of those strategies that managers are looking for. Let's move on to my team, Watford. We shut out Huddersfield finally. Kiko Firmino, 12 points. Roberto Pereira, 11 points. Gerard Deulofeu gets his first goal, 8 points. Isaac Success, a 4.5 starter for how long we'll have to see. He picks up his first goal as well. Garf, any thoughts on either of those 2 teams?
Watford coming back into consideration for me. Kamara's sat on my bench now since game week 1, just rotting. Of course, I benched him as my 3rd and he started, so it would have proper pissed me off if he scored this week. But no, I think I put out a proper Davy proper fire last week, so I got rid of him. So I could conceivably be doing Kamara to success. I like him. He's just a bit of a firework up there. And it was a good goal, to be fair to him. I'm happy with it. He is and Deulofeu's. Deulofeu, if he gets back to where he should be, where I think he is as a player, then he could be an asset. And I can't remember off the top of my head if he's a midfielder or striker. Is he a midfielder?
Midfielder, yeah.
So yeah, I think those two they shone for me. Pereira is just I think if he's clicking at the moment, but I think he's more of a sort of 1 in 2 or a 1 in 3 return kind of guy. But yeah, no, you must be happy. You must be a happy Hornet.
Oh yeah, I'm ecstatic. I mean, this is probably the first week that I can actually recommend a couple of the Hornets, like you said, Feminia. If you want to move off of Ryan Bennett, I think Feminia's got. They have 2 games. I'm not sure really what to make of it past the break. I think it's going to be tough, but they've played well all season, so it's quite possible that they may have a decent game against Leicester and Everton. But for some reason, the Liverpool and the Man City game, granted, they're both at Vicarage Road, but they worry me. They're going to give up. I think they're going to give up tons of goals in those games. But success probably going to rise this week to 4-6. He's already at about 51,000 people brought him in. I can see him starting this week as well away to Newcastle. I think they're just going to take time bringing Troy Deeney back. Andre Gray sort of swapped roles with success now. So you see Gray coming in later in the game. Came in this week for Deulofeu, who was a little unhappy to come off after about, I think, 75, 80 minutes. I think he wanted to finish the game. But Deulofeu is not quite up to match fitness yet. I think another 2 games, and he'll be raring to go. Interesting, though, they're still playing him out of position up, partnering with success. If or when he goes back to the right wing, we'll have to wait and see. But good 2-game run there for the Hornets. Moving on to Chelsea and Ross Barkley, 4-0 over Burnley. Now, Barkley had a goal, 2 assists, giving him 3 goals and 3 assists on the season. That's on like the last 3 or 4 games. Is that chasing points, or is he the real deal, Casey?
That's a good question.
I'm glad I didn't get that one.
Yeah, he's a good player, but there's a lot of good players that can play in that position for Chelsea, and I don't know if he's 100% nailed there. The way he's playing, I think he's going to keep playing until he stops. But one bad game, you might not see him for 5 weeks. I mean, that's the problem, is they've got other options in central midfield, and Hazard being out kind of helps because he could play. They play Barkley, and they could play. Well, of course now. Pedro's sick or something like that. So I have no idea what Chelsea's lineup's going to look like next week. So Barkley's good if he starts, but I don't know if he starts. That's so tough. He started, 2 of the last 3, but he had a goal not this week, but last week off the bench in like a 10-minute cameo. And I think you could definitely see him 10 minutes off the bench pretty easily in every other game or every 3rd game. And I don't know if I like that.
Was he 5.7?
Yep, 5.7.
Yeah.
I mean, these last 3 games he's got the most minutes in the last 3 games. Like you said, started 2 out of the last 3. Had that 21-minute cameo against United where he hit. He's the most brought in player so far this week at 138,000, about 5,000 more than Callum Wilson. But I feel like it's chasing points. Like you said, one bad game, he's out. You'll probably see Kovacic back in there. In that position, or even Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who hit for a hat trick midweek, I think it was.
He had so many options.
Yeah.
So many options. So.
Okay, the other guy I wanted to talk about, Marcus Alonso, seems to be getting somewhat of a bad rap, not really getting the attacking returns, getting the crosses. The stats aren't what they were. He did pick up an assist, which, depending on being an owner or not, was questionable. Not as bad as the hand of God rendition that Lacazette did, but still – a little back heel went off a defender, and they scored. So, Alonso, keep him at 7 million, or do you move him and take that money and spend it elsewhere?
I think I spent all of lunchtime today, my whole lunchtime, moving Alonso out and putting Louise in. and then thinking, shall I, shan't I? I think as an owner, like from the outset, you either have the mentality that you've got a defender in that's going to keep clean sheets, or he's going to keep more clean sheets than the average, or you're playing him thinking, oh, he's an attacking midfielder and I should be getting returns. You have to make up your mind as to whether you're happy with the clean sheet points or you're disappointed with the attacking points, or both, or the other way around. So I can see arguments for pulling in. Obviously, he's a lot of money, but once you pull him out, you're going to be, you're going to be struggling to get him back in again if he does start going off again. But I think 7 million is. I'm using him as another midfielder in inverted commas, because my midfield shows that I've got a couple of guys in at 5 million, just over 5 million. So that's a sacrifice I make to have him.
So he's outscoring every midfielder with the exception of Hazard right now at 7 million.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So that instead of having a 5.7 million defender and a 7 million pound midfielder, then I've gone the other way around. So that's how I've played it, and I'll keep him until injury or suspension or form just completely dips off and they start leaking goals, which I don't think they're going to do.
Yeah, he's less attacking than he was in the first 4 or 5 fixtures. It's really worrying as an owner, but at the same time, you have to have bigger problems in your team than someone who just, has, returned in 2 of the last 3 and had a 11-pointer this week and has good fixtures coming up. I will say this: if you do want to transfer out Alonso, I understand it, but you have to make the Alonso Luis switch then, because with Palace home, Everton home, then they have Spurs away, but then they have Fulham home. They could keep 3 clean sheets in the next 4, and with Alonso 46% owned, and if they get clean sheets in 3 out of the next 4 and you don't have Chelsea defensive cover, you're going to be falling down the ranks so fast it's going to hurt. So you have to go with Luis as your replacement. You can't just go way down. Or I see people doing the Alonso to Mendy switch. Maybe that would be okay, but I think you have to find a way to get a Chelsea defender and a City defender.
Would you prefer Rudiger over Luis? 0.4 more?
No.
5.5?
No, Rudiger might score a couple more goals than Luis. Luis has had some good chances to score goals though, so I don't know. I think they're pretty similar in their attacking output, and I don't know. Luis is cheaper, so I think and very nailed. I think Luis is the replacement if you do want to downgrade Alonso.
All right, moving on. Ugly Palace 2, Arsenal 2. Zaha, I think he's perfected the art of the dive, and that's not to be confused with the podcast by the same name. Milivojevic hits for 2 PKs, but I still don't believe he's relevant in FPL. Aubameyang now with 5 goals in 3 weeks, 2 of those weeks off the bench. What do we make of, let's start with Arsenal. What do we make of Aubameyang and Lacazette? Obviously viable. I've seen some strategies where you try to partner both of them up front, or some look short term with Lacazette, some are looking longer term with Aubameyang. What do we do?
I'm very disappointed in the community and sent me more thanks than I've got for ditching Aubameyang coming into game week 8. Now, if I hadn't have done that, you would have got diddly squat in points. It's just I've kept the faith from game week 1 to 7, got rid of him 7, in for 8, and he's on fire. So any tweet of thanks would be greatly appreciated. It's the only reason he's scoring. But no, he's just. I said at the start of the season, it's the reason I got him in. He will score 20 goals this season plus, and he's just a goal scorer. And it doesn't matter how long we're saying Aguero's only playing 60 minutes, but he's going to score. Well, Aubameyang's in the same bracket. He can play a reduced amount of time, come off the bench, score a goal, start the game, score a goal. He arrives in places in the penalty area that a striker, a world-class striker does. Arriving at the back post on that goal at the weekend, not every striker can do that. Murray could probably do it at the moment for Brighton, but
You're talking about the goal that should have been disallowed, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Just checking.
Like Mane's offside. Still
Touché.
holding on to that. I'm still holding on to that. Like, he was offside. So yeah, no, I think I have seen Lacazette and the Alba, like you say, the strategy. I don't think it's a bad strategy because you're covered there, especially if you want two guys that are going to play 75 plus minutes every week for a top 16, and they're starting to turn gears now. And I think he's finally coming around to his preferred 11. I don't think you'll see Czech again. I think Leno's a good shout in there. So yeah, I would, if I was going to ditch Aguero for some reason, then I would be bringing in Alba. What about yourself, Case?
He was benched in 2 of the last 3 weeks. I mean, yeah, he scored 2 goals off the bench in both of those matches, which is insane. But he scored in his last 5 shots on target.
Yeah, five shots on target, 5 goals.
Yeah.
I saw a tweet and I can't remember who tweeted it, so I apologize to you. I can't remember who tweeted that, but yeah, I was surprised. But
he's
what a goal scorer is.
He's a great player, and I want to own him. But I don't. If I owned him, could I captain him? Because he's unlike Aguero, who started 10 out of 10 matches and gotten 60 plus points. The appearance points at least in every single match. Aubameyang could be benched, and they've got Europa League, and they're starting a strong squad in their Europa League games. Aubameyang started on Thursday and then turned around and started on Monday, but the last 2 times he didn't. So I don't know. I'm worried about, I think he might pace Aguero for goals, but you can't really captain him if he's not a locked-on starter. And I don't want to play 11.8 million for someone who's not a sure starter. It's just
he's 10.8
or 10.8. Sorry, 10.8.
Yeah,
10.8 for someone who was benched in 2 of the last 3 weeks. That's just tough. It could be a trick though. If you bring him in and he keeps this form up, you're flying for the next 3 or 4 weeks before the stupid people like me finally say, "Okay, I've had enough. I'm going to bring him in." So, you know what? It could be a really good move, but I'm just a little bit too conservative of an FPL player for that. Last year I would have done it, but I would have also probably taken a 12-point hit on back-to-back weeks to make it around. No, it wouldn't have worked.
What are you doing, Stephen?
I don't like their upcoming fixtures. I think I'd wait till after 15 myself. I mean, they're home to Liverpool, home to Wolves ahead of the break. Out of the break, they're away to Bournemouth, home to Spurs, away to United. And then things seem to get easier. Not to say they couldn't score against teams like Spurs and United, who've been struggling a little bit. Liverpool, I think, will give them a tough game. Wolves, who knows what Wolves are going to do. They're up and down. Bournemouth still has no defense. So, you may have 2 or 3 good games in there, but I've been very patient this year with my moves, and I don't think I could go to him right now, as Casey said. I mean, you're paying 10.8. That guy better start 90 minutes and be playing 80 to 90 every week. I can't buy paying 28 minutes against Fulham and 29 against Leicester. It just doesn't sit right with me. Can't take away the 7 goals and 2 assists he have with 11 bonus points. So, I mean, he's 14.4% owned, but for now, I'll keep my 11.3 Aguero and hope I get a return every week from him. Any thoughts on Zaha? I know Palace is coming into a very, very poor run of games here. I already moved him ahead of this week for Wilson, so I got out of that before they face Chelsea, Spurs, and United. Is Zaha still viable, or is he more of an act?
I don't even think anyone owns him, do they?
28% of owners own him.
Must be dead teams. I think he would have been shipped out.
I'm sorry. I was looking at Wan-Bissaka. That's my mistake. Knew there's a problem there, huh? 16% owned. 16%.
I bet at least half of those are dead teams, if not 3/4 of them.
Yeah, I think my son's got him in still.
He's just not. He's not a great option, just because he doesn't get a lot of midfield support from open play. I just don't think he's a great option with those fixtures. And
nope.
No.
All right, let's move to Casey's team. Richarlison's still bad. Man United 2. Pickford, top goalkeeper of the week. Sorry, Casey, I had to do that. He recorded his second PK save. Well, actually, Pogba missed, and Pickford got the save. Worst run up to the ball since I think Simone Zaza on the 2016 Euro Cup. Martial, impressive. We'll give Garf that here in just a minute. He could be worth a consideration. 4 goals, 1 assist in the last 3. Do we bank on him to start? But let's go back. Everton. Casey, give me your thoughts.
Oh.
Anyway, moving on. Cheers, Kate.
Yeah. Richarlison needs to. Richarlison's okay against teams that open up as the striker. He played really well against Arsenal as the striker. But teams that sit back, like United and any of the non-top 6 teams, or when there's at least any of the non-top 6 teams when they go to Everton, so Brighton this week, for example, are going to sit back against Everton. And Richarlison needs to run in behind teams, and he's not able to do that from a central striker role. So I hope that they move him back to the wing and bring back Tosin or Calvert-Lewin or something like that. Someone that can play hold the ball up a lot better from the number 9 position, and then have Richarlison run in from the wings. Walcott's been absolutely awful the last 3 or 4 weeks straight. I mean,
do you say weeks or seasons?
Not just from a
Don't remind me.
Not just from an FPL standpoint. I mean, he has been absolutely atrocious. He could have set up his teammates 3 or 4 times against United, and in the games before that, he was awful as well. I would not be surprised if he's dropped this week. It'll be interesting to see if he's dropped and Richarlison plays on the right, or Bernard plays on the right, Richarlison plays on the left, or if Lookman finally gets a start. That'll be interesting to see if he finally gets a start. But Walcott's been really bad for 2 or 3 games on the bounce, and it'll be interesting to see if he gets dropped. I wouldn't drop Richarlison though before Brighton. Brighton's terrible on the road. I don't know. I'd hold Richarlison, but he might be someone that if you have the money to upgrade him all the way to like a Mane or something, sure, do that. But I would keep him at that price point. There's no one else that's any good. Madison's been pretty bad for quite a while, and I mean, I guess if you want to go down to one of the Watford players, I think that would be an interesting move. Pereira or Deulofeu. That would be okay, but other than that, he's kind of on an island. Martial. I guess that's the segue into Martial. If you can get a couple, 0.4 to get to Martial, 0.5 or 0.4, I think is what you would need.
No man is an island.
Maybe.
So hang on.
Why not Sigurdsson? Why not Sigurdsson?
Stephen Island was an island.
You're right. He was.
Right,
sorry.
Good.
I'll give you that. Would you not? Does Sigurdsson not tempt you, Casey?
No, not at all.
Even on penalties?
No.
53 points, 7.4.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything from open play. He's basically a set piece merchant and
4 goals, last 4.
He's got a couple of worldly goals, but that's not sustainable. Is it? Is that sustainable?
It appears he's slowly regaining the form we saw him have at Swansea, I think.
Yeah, but he scored a lot of goals in the box at Swansea. And
you're right, he did.
Any goals in the box at Everton? I don't know if I think he had that header early on in the year, and that might be his only goal in the box at Everton in the last 2 years. It's unbelievable. All of his goals have been either he's had the penalty now or world-class goals from outside the box. He doesn't do anything from open play. And if they start scoring from set pieces or something like that, that'd be great. But they haven't scored from a set piece since, I don't know, that Walcott goal in week 2 or something like that. So they're just not scoring from set pieces either. So I don't know. I wouldn't pick up Sigurdsson. I just don't think he's a great option from open play.
And this is the week I actually finally get rid of Theo Walcott. I've been hanging on to his ass. Why? I don't know, because I had bigger problems. Trying to be patient, trying to give him one more game, looking at the fixture saying, yeah, he could score, he couldn't, he won't. But I do like your segue. Let's move into Martial right now. Garf, give us your thoughts. 7.4, same price as Sigurdsson. Who do you take?
Out of the two, I'd take Martial, and not because I'm a United fan, just because I think he's a better option. The way he cuts in on the wing there. United fans, they're not that stupid. Actually, when you talk to some of them, talk to some of the guys that go up to the game, like they've been crying out for like the Shaw Martial left side for a long time now, and it's starting to happen. You're seeing something's starting to happen there, and he's keeping Sanchez out of the team. Like, you know, call it an injury, call it what you want. At the end of the day, Sanchez is not on form, and Jose doesn't like it, so he's benched, and that's just the way it is for Martial at the moment. And until he stops producing the type of performances he's putting in, he will not be dropped. They will not drop him because there will be a mutiny in the stands. So, yeah, he's there to stay. And I don't even think it's a punt. I think, you know, at 7.4 million, he's not going to break the bank on you, and you can quite happily go and slot him in your team, especially if you're looking for an upgrade for Richarlison or the bang average Maddison. And I don't care about his underlying stats or anything. Like, he is bang average at best. So yeah, that's what I would do. That's my view of life for Martial. I think he's a great player. I like him. He's young. He does what a Man United winger used to do, like Kanchelskis or Poborski or Giggs or Lee Sharp or however far you want to go back. He'll run at defenders. He'll commit them. And he's entertaining. That's what he does, and he's producing attack and returns right now. So now is the time. If you're going to do it now.
Yeah, I got to find a replacement for Lucas Moore. I really hadn't considered Martial. I still haven't really been on the Man United bandwagon this year, with the exception of David De Gea to start the season, and we see how big of a letdown he was. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. He's only 5.1% owned right now, with those 4 goals and that 1 assist. But I do agree, as long as he continues to produce, I think Jose is going to stick with him. But you know, he could just as quickly be out as, you know, somebody else. Like you said, Sanchez. I mean,
yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if Sanchez didn't kick a ball till January. But
yeah.
But it was the same with Shaw when Shaw went through his patch, and Jose's, you know, he's not scared about coming forward and calling these guys out. So it worked for Shaw. Shaw's been Man United's best player this season. And I think the same can be said for Martial. The way the tactics have been working for Jose on Martial, I think it's starting to bear fruit now.
Yeah, here's my thought on Martial. They've got Bournemouth away, City away in their next 2. I'm happy to sit, and if he starts the next 2, buy him before Palace home, Southampton away, Arsenal home, Fulham home, and 13 through 16's great run of attacking fixtures for United, if such a thing exists. And if Martial keeps his place for the next 2, that's a great option. He might rise again, you know, between now and then. But in the mid 7s, I mean, that's a great option for those 4 fixtures. And really, then they have Liverpool away, which is a bad fixture, but then a whole bunch of, you know, then they have Cardiff away, Huddersfield home. So Martial could be a great buy after the international break.
All right, Casey, let's move on to somebody you wanted to talk about, Bournemouth. Callum Wilson, he had a brace this week, including a penalty, as Josh King is sidelined with an ankle injury. Also, Ryan Fraser finally returned. I say finally because I think that's probably the first points I have got from him since I picked him up. At 6'1", does he still warrant consideration?
I wouldn't buy him. They've got a terrible run of fixtures. But the real question is do you hold them? And do you hold them for a week or 2? That's tough because they've got United home, which I could see him scoring in that match.
So do I. So could I.
And then Newcastle away, and Newcastle will park the bus. But then maybe Newcastle, when they're at home, might not be quite as defensive. So I can see the case for people saying, well, maybe I'm going to give him the next 2 and then sell him after the international break before Arsenal home, Man City away. That's a tough one. The problem is in the big picture, Bournemouth have not just a bad short and medium term, but a bad long term run of fixtures. They between now and game week 29 in March, half of their games are against the top 6. Half of their games are against the top 6 between now and March. And then they have a great run of fixtures at the end of the year, so we might be back on the Bournemouth bandwagon, going into double game weeks and things like that. So
yeah, Callum Wilson wasn't. I picked up Frazier. I don't know how many weeks ago, 4 or 5 weeks ago. I've only gotten, I think, 3 assists out of him. So it's been somewhat frustrating to watch. Arguably his price 6.1. You don't expect returns every week for that price. Returns maybe 1 out of every 3, 2 out of every 5, something like that. So he has produced in terms of. In terms of points, I mean, you look at 11, 3, 6, and 1 in his last 4. So, you're looking at 20 points there. I think 20 points out of the last 4.
That's not bad for a 6 million.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I just don't know if there's got to be better options over the next 20 game weeks, though, right?
Oh, yeah, I definitely do think there are. I'm looking to move Frazier. Like you said, I'll probably hold him for 2 more weeks into the break and then look at jumping off out of the break. Callum Wilson was never in my plans. He was sort of brought in just because I saw he was going to price rise. He had a couple of good games coming up with Fulham and what's this week?
Southampton last week, yeah.
Southampton and Fulham and then Newcastle. So I figured, okay, I can get away with that for 3 weeks, reassess the situation, but I was a little hesitant to get on Callum Wilson even at 6.4, but I'm not going to argue with what he's done over the couple of weeks that I've owned him here.
Yeah, Wilson's central to everything they do, even more than Frazier. Frazier he's on set pieces, which is nice, and he creates some from open play, but he's not like everything goes through Callum Wilson, and it's even more so with King out. He's the focal point of their attack. Everything goes through him. When he's not scoring goals, he's getting assists. He's had quite a few assists. I don't know how many this year, but quite a few. So I don't know. If I had Callum Wilson, just because there's not a lot of other great options around his price, I think Callum Wilson is more of a long-term or at least medium-term hold than Ryan Frazier, just because there's no other great options to move around to. So I don't know. I think 5 goals and 7 assists. That's insane. I mean, and Bournemouth are not bad. They're a solid mid-table side. They're not going to get blown out in every single one of these tough games. So I think they definitely could get goals even against the top 6 teams. Now, they might not win those games, but that's not really what we care about from a fantasy perspective. So Wilson could be a hold. So I don't know. That's tough. I think it's going to be. I think I'm going to keep Frazier unless I absolutely need to downgrade him for the money. I think I'll keep him until the international break.
All right. Garf, any comments on any of the Bournemouth assets? Wilson, Frazier, maybe Brooks?
Yeah, Brooks is he's only a kid, but he's putting up some numbers, and again he's like Martial in the way that he plays. He plays with no fear. He's got nothing to prove. If you wanted to downgrade Fraser, I'd probably go Brooks to keep a Bournemouth attacking asset. Yeah, he's not going to play 90 minutes, and he might start on the bench every now and again. But for 5.1, I think,
yep,
he's certainly be my consideration. And then like Casey was saying, if 7 assists and 5 goals for a striker at 6 point whatever he is, 4-3. If you're looking for that Mitrovic swap, that's a good one as well, right there. And at that sort of value, you can just leave him because he doesn't have to set the world alight every time he steps foot on the field. But he's on course for 15 plus goals this season, and at that value, you can't really argue. So there'll be the 2.
All right. Before we look forward, let's take a look at our game week 10 results. Casey, how did you do this game week? It looks like everything's finally updated here.
Yeah. 68 points and a red arrow.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was like a 500 or 600 rare arrow, so it wasn't like a big deal, but frustrating because I had to use my full bench this week. and I got 4 points from 3 players off the bench, and I didn't get, Robertson, Hazard, and Arnautovic all dropped, and that's a lot of budget right there to be not playing. So I guess it could have been worse, but I've just kind of been in FPL purgatory for the last while. My game week rank right now is the same as it was five weeks ago, basically. So I've just had tiny red arrows, tiny green arrows, and I'm right where I was 5 weeks ago. So I don't know.
Where's that? What's your overall rank?
86,000. So
on how many points? What's the total?
628. So it's frustrating though, because I've made some mistakes. The biggest one I think would be just not having city coverage and defense, and I could have done that 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I didn't. And then just going for Mitrovic and Arnautovic, because I thought that was a really good. Both of those were really good players, and I got them in like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I got an assist from Mitro, but that's it from them. And Arnautovic has been playing well, and his run of fixtures is good, so I'm happy to hold him. Hopefully he gets over the flu here for next week, but yeah, I could have gone for Callum Wilson and gotten more points. So it's pretty frustrating. I'm just kind of treading water. I've still got my wild card, but it's just I think about playing it and I just don't know what to do. So we can talk about transfers a bit. I got two transfers for this week, which is nice, but I don't know what to do with them. I want to get rid of Mitro long term, but I don't want to do it ahead of Huddersfield. So I don't know what I'm doing right now. It's kind of rough.
Yeah, it must be awful being like all the way up there. Yeah, a horrible position.
Yeah, well, what
I know, but when you are that high in the rankings, and this goes for everyone, like those small adjustments that you make are key to going up and down. They're not like you're not going to get like big 20,000 or 200,000 arrows.
There's such a fine margin of error, and so I think for me it's going to be about hitting the wild card at the right time, considering that I'd say most of the other top 100,000 managers that are around me have played their wild card by now.
Now that's got to be close to first week of December then, or real late November.
Yeah, I'm thinking it'll be sometime around the fixture pile up when we get a lot of injuries. If we can get if we have like 2 long-term injuries, or like a long-term injury from a premium player or something like that, that would be the time to do it. Like if Aguero or Hazard or Salah or something like that gets hurt, that would be the time to do it. But yeah, I'm kind of frustrated though, because I wanted to experiment. I know it's kind of a faux pas, but I've got this 5 at the back side that I've played every single week, 5 at the back. It's basically my team, except with it's basically the same team I've had, except I invested it's like 2 players different than my actual team. I'm just playing 5 at the back and dropped one of my strikers, and that's it. And I basically kept the same team and just kind of played with it just to see how that would go. Like just basically the basic experiment of same players, but drop 1 attacker for 2 premium defenders. So basically I'm playing with 2 strikers up top instead of 3, and I have Mitro and Aguero up top instead of Mitro, Aguero, and Arnautovic, and then I've got premium defenders. And that team's been basically the same as mine and has 30 more points than mine and is in the top 20K. So it's pretty frustrating. It's kind of showing you that the experiment of 5 at the back actually pays off if you manage it like any other team. So
if you have patience, which I know a lot of FPL managers don't have.
If you have patience and you play 5 at the back, it's boring. And so that's the one thing. If this was my main team, it would be really frustrating and scary to watch all the games, because you're always worried about you're always worried about keeping clean sheets, and that's a frustrating way to play FPL. But this is just from a pure experimental standpoint. I just wanted to say, well, let's just drop 1 attacker, put 2 extra defenders on there, and play with 5 at the back. And it's as of this point, it's way better than my team. So it's kind of frustrating. But anyone thinking about playing 5 at the back, I would recommend it. Just there's so many good options back there, premium defenders.
Garf, you're better than 80,000. How'd you do this week?
I think I haven't seen the update since we came on pod, but I think it's a 69-point green arrow up to 916,000th. My mini revival continues from the depths of 2.9 million from game week 3. So yeah, I've just been playing slowly catch a monkey, not taking any hits. I did have 5 players that didn't return any points, more than 2 out of my starting 11. But luckily I had Edison, Alonso, Zaha, Salah, Richarlison got me 5 points. Kennedy got me 3 points.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Richarlison fell down in the box for an assist. I forgot that.
Yeah, love them.
His was a penalty and Martial's wasn't. But
hang on, we got a Casey. I got a Tornado on the line. Don't bite on them, mate. Come on, you're better than that.
Have you seen it though? Have you seen it? I mean, have you seen the replay of the Martial one?
Yeah, that was bad.
I don't know.
Was it as bad as Kamara's? Did you see that nonsense?
His dive was epic. Well, Lamella's today was probably the worst of them all, though. But it wasn't in the box. But Lamella's dive today was.
Was that Lamella's or was that Mora?
No, it was Lamella, I think, that dove.
Oh, okay.
Dive FPL have got to be doing a feature of like the top 10 dives of the year. Like they've got to start ranking those dives because
well, Martial's wasn't a dive. It was just
pathetic. Is that the word you're looking for?
Though there was contact, but at least it didn't dive with no contact. He just went over easy. I see why he went over easy, but it wasn't.
But yeah, no, I had a good game week. I'm happy with it. So yeah, I took a punt on Kennedy, bought Kennedy in, just because of Newcastle's fixtures. So we'll see what happens over the next. I don't know what they got. 25 good game fixtures on a run. Whatever it is. But yeah, so we'll see. We'll see. I'm still aiming for the top 100,000. So
you're on a bit of a run though, Garf. You've had what, 5 green arrows in the last 6 or 5 in the last 7?
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Just plodding away, mate. Just plodding away. Like, yeah, we'll see. And with my TV, it's very hard. I started noticing for the first time this weekend making my transfers the difference between 0.1 or missing out on 0.2 or somebody getting a triple rise, and with only a TV of 101 million, it's starting to make it life difficult. But we'll see.
Yeah, but you got a good team. Like when we talked 3 or 4 weeks ago, you had like 5 problem players in your team, and now you might have like what, 2 or 3.
Yeah, two or 3,
but not really
out of the 15.
Yeah, so that's not your team is starting to look really good, and you're getting a lot of green arrows, and you're jumping a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of dead people. Like if I'm not jumping dead people, like I have got a problem. But no, it's nice. It's nice to see. Nice to see. So I think my average is 55 points on my little Excel spreadsheet I keep. So yeah, keep that going. What about yourself, Stephen?
Look. For the week 87, that's my season high.
That's amazing.
I've been living off defense. The double up of Ederson and Mendy have just been tremendous the last 6 weeks. I'm continuing to hold Alonso. I've got Robertson. So those 4 right there have been a saving grace that has kept me right around 60 points for 10 weeks. In fact, nice. I'm just over. I'm sitting at 61 points average for 10 weeks, which I'm very pleased with. Solid did the business with the captain's armband at 30. I had Frazier with 11. Up front, it was Wilson. Then I only got 3 points off the bench. Lucas Moura came in for Robertson, and then Theo Walcott, the old reliable Everton player, coming in for Arnautovic with 2 points. So 87, I'm not gonna be disappointed. That puts me up about 180,000 spots. I'm 163 overall. So it's been slow and steady, like Casey said. I'm playing boring. I'm not taking chances, which I know I would have taken last year. Thus the reason for holding players like a Walcott, like a Mora. I still have James Milner as my third Liverpool asset. They're not problems. I mean, they play, they get good minutes, they can score, but I haven't wanted to make a move or chase points. I'll bring it up again, like Richarlison. I felt I was chasing points when I think Richarlison had a brace. He came in the next week, got a red card. I was chasing points. I feel I was chasing points on Frazier too, but I've stuck with him because the fixtures have been decent and he's going to return. He's getting 80, 90 minutes a game. You have this idea in the back of your mind that he's going to return points at some point. So I go into this week with two transfers, hoping only make one and then possibly carry two into the international break and see what that does. But I'm playing boring. I want to break into the top 100,000 here hopefully next week, but still seeing a big jump. I'm at 610, so I'm only chasing Casey by 18.
Yeah,
so.
You're going to catch me next week. You've been flying the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah,
absolutely flying.
6 out of 7 green arrows, and I've still been seeing 180,000 place jump. So I've been very pleased with the team, and like you said, it's unexciting fantasy, but playing boring and looking ahead and trying to hit those fixtures. I've gotten lucky. I'm not going to say Wilson has been pure luck. Not in my plans on my spreadsheet. Comes in, bangs 3 goals. I'll take it. But living off the defense, and I'm still going to keep the big 3 in the back, and maybe move Bennett here for a Kiko Firmino, or even I mean this week I was considering Ederson. Moving Ederson to free up that third City spot in anticipation of KDB, which I could do. Which I could do in 2 moves. But I don't want to lose those, 12 to 14 points, 16 points I'm getting out of those 2 defenders. Run a 6 clean sheets. It's tough to do. So.
Yeah, and about De Bruyne, he didn't start today, but I think that was a good thing. I think he's regaining fitness, and he had started 2 in a row. He started midweek, and he started at the weekend last weekend. So I just don't think he was ready to play three times in a week.
No.
I wouldn't be worried about anyone who's questioning whether or not to bring him in. I still think he's a great option, even though he didn't start today. I think he'll start playing most matches soon.
I think that pitch had something to do with it as well, to be honest.
Maybe.
I think Pep had a look at that pitch and thought there's no point in risking it, If he pops an ankle or goes over or something.
He got a run out, but it was 10 minutes and it wasn't a big deal. So
I would like Hazard, but I don't know how to get Hazard in. I keep playing it. It's going to cost me 3 midfielders, and I'll probably end up with a 4-5 Philip Billing, who I don't want. I want to keep. He plays. I understand that he plays, but he's your perennial 2-pointer like a Dale Stevens. Looking at moving Aguero down to a 4-5. Why Success had, a good game this week. We know he's not the long-term solution for Watford. We know he's going to go back to the bench at some point, and that just limits, what any fantasy manager can do if they only have 2 starting forwards. I mean, you can't sit there and look at changing and going from a 4-3-3 to a 3-5-2, and being forced not to have that option to play 3 up at the front or 2 up at the front and get that 5th defender or maybe that 5th midfielder in. So I want to make sure I have 15 starting players. So I don't think I can get Hazard unless I decide to move Aguero, which will free up enough funds to get Aguero and KDB, which is something I'm considering. But I'm not going to jump into that right now when I'm having some decent success.
Yeah, you got two free transfers and over $1 million in the bank. I mean, you could do something this week if you wanted to.
Yeah, I know. It's just it's looking longer term though. I don't want to, Firmino. I mean, Watford have 2 good games. Do I really want to buy a defender for 2 good games? I mean, he's gonna end up being my 4th or my 5th defender, most likely not playing at all. But he could return those. I mean, conceivably, Watford could keep 2 clean sheets in these next 2 games.
So, I mean, have you considered something like Walcott down to a 4-5, and then Lucas Moura up to KDB or something like that?
Yeah. I've been I can't. I got to move Ederson because I have Mendy, Ederson, and Aguero. So Ederson is that key that has to go. That frees up another 1.2.
Ederson to a 4-5.
Right.
Might have enough money to do Lucas Moura up, though, would you?
No. I could do that for KDB. Ederson and Moura out, KDB and a 4-5 or a 4-6 keeper in.
Okay. Well, I mean, that wouldn't be a a terrible move. Although honestly, double defense at this point in City and having some of the more nailed defenders might be, I don't know, that might be a better going forward than KDB even.
Yeah. So I'm going to give KDB a couple more weeks. Maybe look at him again after the Derby game with United, and then make a decision on him there. But definitely Walcott or Lucas will be out of the team this week, if not both of them.
So what's your thoughts, Stephen, on Sterling versus KDB? Is Sterling worth the extra 1.3 million or whatever it is?
I think he's more dynamic than KDB. Obviously, he's going to get more goal attempts than KDB. He's going to get into the box more than KDB. But De Bruyne just brings he brings that stability, I think, to the midfield. I mean, 39 assists in the last 2 years. You can't argue it. You know he's going to get a goal now and then. Now, granted, he's not going to outscore Sterling, but at 11-1, it's tough. I mean, it's tough to get him in.
To get him in, but if you were to say ship Aguero and go with a double or like two defenders and a midfielder from City, and you did have the money now to make that choice between the two,
I would still be looking at Hazard.
Hazard, okay.
Yeah, I would look at Hazard over Sterling and still be able to get KDB in, but it would cost me Aguero and Ederson. So, do I want to lose that little comfort blanket I've had with my double City defense? Not right now. Maybe I'll look at it again here out of the break. But it's tough to change Ederson when he's hasn't conceded a goal for 6 games or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, all right, let's look forward. Here's some player considerations for the next 4 weeks. Any thoughts, Garf, on goalkeepers for the next couple of weeks?
Is this guys that I'll be looking to bring in, or anyone should be considering?
Well, I mean, looking at defense for
both.
the next looking at the defense for the next 4 games, Leicester, Brighton, Huddersfield, Burnley, Cardiff, and Newcastle have the best defensive fixtures ahead of those. Do you like? I honestly don't like any of those teams. I know we talked about Matt Ryan as a possibility at 4-5 for a keeper.
I don't think Matt Ryan's long term though, is he?
He's long term to December.
Yeah, it's a lot of good fixtures, and they concede a lot of shots, so he'll get save points.
Yeah, we spoke about that over. What about Fabianski? Fabianski's got to be up there.
Fabianski kept 1 clean sheet in 10 matches. That's what are they? They're on pace for 4 clean sheets this year.
Yeah, but again, he does face a lot of shots. They have Burnley, Huddersfield, City, and Newcastle. So
he got 2 bonus points and conceded a goal, not this week, but the last week.
Yeah.
I don't know,
because I think for the reason that I got Arnautovic in for the foreseeable future, apart from the City game, I think it's all pretty much green and grey.
Yeah.
I think for the same reason, I'd be considering, if you did want to release some 1.1 million, I think Fabianski would be my preferred choice because he plays in a better team than those previously mentioned. Dubravka would be an option if he wasn't 5 million and overpriced, because I like their fixtures, but I don't think you can go that route. So Fabianski for me would be the pick out of a non-premium goalkeeper.
all right, Casey, defenders. Who are you looking at for the next few weeks?
I have to get a City defender in. I haven't had one since I dropped Mendy after his first 4 games or whatever it was, and it's really hurt.
Yeah.
So I'm debating Laporte or Mendy.
Don't get Delphin. He's rubbish.
No. Laporte started every match. He's even starting the Champions League matches, and I think Pep said something in his pregame press conference that he wasn't going to play every single match this year, but basically made it seem like he was going to play maybe every single one but 1 or 2. So, he was going to get rest maybe over the holiday period or something like that, but everyone will. So I think he's the most nailed other than Ederson in the defense.
What's the difference between him and Mendy in price? Is it 0.6?
5.8 and 6.3.
Yeah. So I'm just worried with Mendy that will Pep, he had a bad game today. He defended poorly.
And he threw a punch.
And even if the
Only a
FA
punch if it connects.
Yeah, I know. So
Yeah,
even
true.
if the FA, if
But
you know, of
he
course,
is a shark.
the FA could give him a retrospective ban, and that makes the decision for me if the FA comes and gives him a ban.
And that's the problem, because he didn't connect.
Yeah.
And the referee didn't do anything. They can still look at that and say it was intent.
Yeah.
And if it's intent, then he's going to get done. So
yeah, if he had connected, like,
would have knocked him out.
Lamella could be dead right now. I mean, seriously, like that was a swing to kill. Like that was total haymaker. It was unbelievable, right at his head. I don't know. The thing is even the worst case would be FA does not ban him and Pep says, I don't trust you, and just leaves him out of the team with no mention of it ever. And so Mendy gets dropped for 3 or 4 more straight games, but it's just an internal ban that is an injury or something like that.
I can literally hear Twitter, like when they watch this, I can hear him going, shit,
I could see it. I could see it so easily that Mendy has another minor injury that he sees like a month out because Pep is like, I'm punishing you because you're a hothead and you need to settle down.
Yeah, this was one of his worst games I'd seen. I mean, he was awful today.
So I think I'm leaning towards Laporte. He's just going to be a 6-point merchant. City are going to keep clean sheets in like 2/3 of their matches this year, and he's going to get 6 points in all of them. And I don't know. I'd say that's probably where I'd go. Alternatively, if you have Ederson or something like that, I think I'd look at Van Dijk. 5.9, same deal. Liverpool have the best defense in the league. They're better. Their defense is better than City's, even though they haven't had quite a few clean sheets. Their actual defense is a lot better than City's.
So let me throw out the world's best defender, Dejan Lovren. Do you believe in him at 4.9?
No, the problem is there's 3 players for 2 spots with Gomez, Alexander-Arnold, and Lovren, and it's been an actual rotation between the 3 of them in their last couple of matches, and each one have been dropped for 1 match. Gomez was dropped for this match. Last week it was
Trent, and the week before it was Trent.
Was Trent, and
I'm an owner.
Yeah, and Lovren. I don't know. I don't know. Lovren could be an option, but you'd have to be totally okay with him getting dropped like every.
I do like the Van Dijk idea, giving me double Liverpool defense after this week.
Robertson. If you don't own Robertson, what are you doing? Because he's the best. He'll be the top defender in the game this year.
Are we high-fiving?
No, I don't. No, I don't own Robertson.
You need to get him, Garf. You need to get him. You need to find money, and you need to buy.
Mate, somebody would have to do a GoFundMe page for me to get Robertson in the freaking team. Honestly, I've tried. Like, the only way I'd get him in is taking out Salah. I think it's ridiculous. No, I honestly, like, I'd love to have Robbo in, but
he missed a game.
I can't get him in. I've got no money.
The thing with Robertson this week is, I look, when he was rested, I said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. He played 2 full 90-minute matches over the international break for Scotland because for whatever reason, because he's their captain now, and they're just like, well, we'll just let him play 180 minutes over every international break, which is
he's their best player.
Well, he's their only player. So
okay.
Yeah. So he played 2 full 90s. Then he played full 90 in the league, and then he played 80 minutes in the Champions League. So he's off 4 matches in 2 weeks, and of course he just got rested because Klopp is actually trying to be a good manager this year, and he's like, I'll manage my players. Because what is he going to do? Ride him for 90 minutes twice a week until the Christmas period? He's going to blow a hamstring, and then he's going to be out for 3 months, and then there goes your chance of winning the league. And yeah, it made a lot of sense for them to drop him and play Moreno against a terrible team, because that's the best time to play Moreno because he's the least liability.
And he's a bad player. Like,
yeah,
I genuinely felt sorry for him last season, and then having watched him at the weekend, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, you're
the
bad,
funniest thing in all of this. The funniest thing in all of this is that, like, they have so much depth at right back because Gomez can play there, Alexander-Arnold can play there, and where's Klein? Klein is supposedly fit, and he hasn't played at all. So it's amazing how much they have depth they have at right back, and then they have Moreno as cover for Robertson. So Robertson is super nailed. Like, it is just like emergency rest. That's all that they're giving it.
All right. We were talking about defenders. Let's move to the midfield. A couple of midfielders going forward for the next few weeks into the break. Who are we looking at?
Martial, Barkley.
I'll throw out De La Feu. I like him for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't think you can consider any Arsenal midfielders because, you know, as Ozil, as good as he was at the weekend, he's just not. He just doesn't do it, and then he gets a mystery illness and then doesn't turn up. And
he supposedly he actually has like a immunodeficiency disease.
Brilliant. Now I feel like a shitbag. Yeah, cheers, coach. Yeah, thanks.
No. Like, so that's the reason why he's like. That's the reason why he's sick all the time is because he's got like some like that's why supposedly he's got like an immune disease, and so that's why he's like sick all the time.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. Cheers. Well, anyway, he's still not an option.
No, not an option.
And I don't think. I love Ramsey. Ramsey's on the back pedal at the moment. He's like, I don't know why they've taken the offer off the table. Come on, because you probably said you wanted to leave, and now you're actually, thinking, they're scoring and we're doing okay. And so he's on a bit of a back pedal. So I don't think you can trust him to play every week. I don't even think Mkhitaryan can get in their U23 squad at the moment. Xhaka and Torreira. Their defensive option. Oh, what a goal that was by Xhaka, by the way. Love that.
Great.
Poor goalkeeping, but
see, I don't buy that. I don't buy that. He got a hand to it when I was playing. You get a hand to it, you got to make the save. It's just a little too far to his left. The wall.
Chocolate wrists.
He got a good hand on it though, but just not enough.
But so I don't know. I think I think we're right on what we said earlier. We're chasing the points with Barkley. Martial, I think, is the best midfielder at Manchester United at the moment because Mata doesn't get you any attacking returns despite being half decent. He'll just sort of float through the game and not do anything. Liverpool, obviously, everyone's loaded up anyway. So,
I don't know. A lot of people dropped both Salah and Mane, and I think it's time. If you don't have either Salah or Mane, you need to get one of them back because they're starting to look like Liverpool last year, at least to a certain extent. I mean, they scored 4 goals against Cardiff. They scored 5 goals midweek. They only scored 1 goal last week against Huddersfield, but I mean, they're starting to look better. That's the thing. They start so. Get
what
one.
Do you reckon, Stephen?
Yeah, I do agree. You got to get one of them in. Again, I'm still promoting De La Feu, short 2 weeks. He looked good. I would almost give, I don't know, Lamela a shot. I thought he was the best Spurs asset out there today. They got Wolves and Palace in the next 2. But Martial, I think we have a handful of players who've put in a couple of good shifts the last 2 to 3 weeks, and they're suddenly coming to the forefront here, and looking to replace possibly players like a Frazier or like some of those 5'5", 5'6" midfielders that many of us have been holding for one reason or another. Madison's falling out of favor, so I think we're going to see a little change here in the midfielders going forward as fixtures start to change. And like you guys said, some of these managers are going to be looking at getting the high prices of Salah and possibly Mane or even Hazard back in.
Yeah, I think it's time for premium midfielders again. There's not a lot between the premiums and the budget right now, other than Martial. I think Martial could be a good punt. Richarlison's still going to tick over. I don't know. Everton's going to have one of the better attacks in the league this year, and you get their talisman for $6.5 million. That's still an okay punt. So I don't know.
All right, that brings us to the forward position. Who do we want the next couple of weeks?
Nobody. Arnautovic, if he's healthy.
If he's healthy,
If
yes.
he's healthy. Arnautovic is the best budget forward for the
Do we
next.
consider Vardy? I know he was held out of the game, came in at halftime. They have Cardiff, Burnley, and Brighton Hove in the next three. $9 million.
Who's their next game against Cardiff?
It should be against Cardiff. I guess they've already moved the League Cup or something midweek. Yeah.
After the tragedy there, it's
that could be really interesting if they end up pushing that back like a week and they play a double game week or something like that.
Yeah, it could be.
In a couple of weeks, that could be interesting. Get a Leicester player for a double game week.
And we'll see if we'll see what that tragedy does to the team too. I mean, you don't want to use that as a motivator, but I mean, he was beloved. I mean, everything I've read about the owner was, he was an incredible owner, and even guys who no longer play for him are paying their respects to a great man. So it'll be interesting to see how Leicester come back out when they play their next game. But I definitely
fortunate. Yeah, he was very beloved by fans and team alike. You could tell from they had a ceremony today that the team loved him and everyone around him loved him. So that was very sad. And
let's move on to the last segment here. Our captain, punt, and transfer. We'll run through this real quick. Garf, who's your captain?
Aguero against Southampton.
Casey.
Yeah, probably Aguero. But I think if I get a full thumbs up, I think Hazard could be a good shout too.
Agreed. I'm going Aguero as well. A home fixture. Who's your transfer this week? Casey. Oh, Garf. Let's go with Garf. Who's your transfer?
No, let's not. No. Let's go to Casey.
All right, Casey. Give me your transfer.
Probably free up money by downgrading Fraser and bring in Laporte or Mendy for one of my 4.0 defenders. So either Juan B or Bennett. I don't want triple Wolves. I mean, Wolves have been a great defense, and they conceded one shot on goal against Brighton. It's kind of unlucky that they conceded. So, but I think double Wolves defense is enough. I've got Patricio and Doherty. I think Bennett can go. So probably Bennett to Laporte or Bennett to Mendy with a downgrade. Those are my two either probably Fraser downgrade. So that's probably my move for the 2 free transfers this week.
And I will finally say goodbye to Theo Walcott, downgrade him. Most likely going to go Gerard Deulofeu. That gets me an additional $1 million in the bank. So if I decide to pick up Van Dijk next week, that'll give me enough money plus some in the bank to get him and still have about $500,000 to play with. That'll be my transfer for the week. I'll keep more. Spurs have a decent fixture against Wolves. I guess I'll run him out, give him one more chance. Yeah. A nice boring transfer setting up for, as Casey said, defense. I'm going to continue to pump money into my defense.
That's the game, though. You don't have to have a transfer to make it exciting, right? You just got if you're playing the long game and you set yourself up with a sideways transfer or a boring transfer, which allows you to do something the following week, then great. Especially with the international break coming up again. You got to start thinking about stuff. I'll probably go. I'm going to ride success. I'll probably go Kamara to success. Why not? And play him and start him.
Yeah. All right. Seeing as we have you, Garf, who's your punt for the week? If you had a punt on some success. All right, I'll take that. He's slowly making his way up there. 15 points on the season, 2.4% owned now. So
he can't be for everyone, but like when you've got Kamara and he's doing nothing, then I might as well do it while I can do it while I've got no other fires to put out. Major fires. If there's an injury, then I've got a problem. But I think Hazard's going to be back. That's not going to be an issue anymore. Arnie's going to be back because he had the man flu. So yes, it will be success. It'll be my punt.
Casey, who do you punt on this week?
I'll stick with Watford. I'll go with Deulofeu. I think he keeps it up, and I think they've got a good match on the road. I would go with Pereira, but I still don't trust him away from home, so I think Deulofeu.
Yeah, that was Pereira's first away goal in a Watford shirt. So great to get it. Hopefully that spurs him on and he keeps this run of form up. For me, I'm going to go Laurent Deportra. Huddersfield, I think, can win a game this week against Fulham.
Say that again.
Yeah, exactly. Deportra. Yeah, I did. Not that I would ever transfer him in, but I
He's
do
a
like
punt.
I do like the matchup against Fulham, and he'll actually be my punt for Academic Vertex this week too.
Okay.
So yeah, I do like him this week. Fulham's just terrible, no matter how you look at it. Their defense just can't stop anybody, and I think Huddersfield will definitely pick up 3 points this week. Probably put 2 goals by him. So we will see.
Well,
Anything else before we wrap it up today here on Academic Vertex? Any final thoughts?
I don't think so. Like, just I did see a great video on the Twitter community there. Pogba's penalty took as long as Usain Bolt running a 100-meter sprint. Brilliant. If you can find it, it's worth watching.
Yeah, I saw it.
It's brilliant.
I'll have to look for it. I miss that.
Yeah, it's a good one. I enjoyed it, and also FPL Partridge. He put out a great tweet. He had you remember Leicester when they did that beautiful emblem in the center of the field, and then the Premier League came around and said, "Hey, you can't have that. That's not allowed." And then the side by side was the NFL logo in the middle of Wembley Stadium today. It's like, I think it got something like 500 likes and about 4 million retweets. It was a good pick from Partridge. He's on fire right now. I love his content.
He's had some good content recently. I do agree.
Yeah.
Casey, any final thoughts before we?
I guess sometimes things are bigger than football, so my thoughts are with Leicester, and I think that's
for sure.
I think that's where I want to end.
Perfect place to end. So we do want to thank you from all of us here at Academic Vertex. Stay tuned. We should be back next week, either the Eurasia group or the U.S. group. We seem to be running into some scheduling conflicts here, but we're very appreciative for the support, and we'll see you next time. That's all. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks.
Good night.
Cheers, guys. Night.